Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is my weekly response video to the weekly question that Greg over at MidLife Sports Cards asks his audience. And as always, Greg came up with a great question about a topic that periodically comes up within the hobby, and that is, do grading companies control the number of tens that they assign to cards, especially for particular players? And there are two cards that a lot of people use as an example of possibly the grading companies holding back on uh, giving the 10 grade to try to limit that population and maintain the high value of those limited number of 10s that are out there. And before I get into my thoughts on this, in the description of this video, I'll have the link to Greg's video in which he goes over the responses from his question from last week and then ends with the question for this week. And also, as part of that video, he references another video that was the basis for him asking this question. So definitely go check that video out as well. I'm going to be referencing that in my response here. And you'll have to forgive me here. I wrote down a lot of notes because I wanted to make sure that I conveyed everything that I've been thinking about this topic. So I'm going to read from some of my notes here to make sure that I don't miss anything. So I put a lot of thought into this as to, do the grading companies really do control the population of tens? And I thought of 5 reasons why grading companies might have an incentive in doing so. And the first one is to maintain their elite status. So grading companies may want to maintain the prestige of their 10 grade as something difficult to achieve. If they were too lenient with awarding 10s, it could lead to devaluation of the grade itself. By keeping the number of 10s rare, they ensure that it remains a prestigious and valuable distinction. If grading companies were too generous with assigning 10s, they could risk losing their reputation for precision and accuracy. Grading companies are likely focused on maintaining their image as the definitive and authoritative voice in sports card evaluations, and being seen as too lenient could damage this. So that's the first possible incentive for the grading card companies in doing so. The second one is a perception of objectivity. So if grading companies are seen as overly generous in issuing 10s, it could damage their credibility and lead to accusations of inconsistency or bias. This could harm the company's brand and reduce collector confidence in their grading system. The third potential incentive is scarcity increases value. So a limited number of 10s, especially for iconic or vintage cards, can lead to higher market prices for those cards. If every card could easily receive a 10, it would flood the market with high-grade cards, reducing their rarity and ultimately their value. By maintaining the rarity of perfect cards, grading companies help preserve or increase the demand and price for those high-grade cards. The fourth potential incentive is the price inflation of 10s. So when a card receives a 10, it often receives or achieves a large multiple in price compared to a 9. We see that you just compare a 9 and a 10, especially for vintage, but even some modern cards, the price difference between a 9 and 10 could be huge. If too many cards were graded a 10, the perceived value that grade may drop, which could harm the reputation of financial rewards for both collectors and the grading companies themselves. And finally, the fifth potential incentive that I came up with was long-term sustainability. So while grading companies profit from each card they grade, The long-term sustainability of the industry depends on maintaining a balance between supply and demand. If every card were to receive a 10, the rarity and by extension the long-term interest in these cards might decline, reducing the overall market size. By keeping 10s rare, they ensure that the cards continue to be seen as long-term investments. Now, the YouTuber that Graig refers to in his video that has a link to a video that he did analyzing this specific question is Hypop Professor. His name's Brian. So what Brian did in his video, again, I encourage you to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to summarize what he did here. He looked at one of the two cards that is usually the focus of attention when this topic arises, and that's the 1993 SP Derek Jeter rookie card. So he looked not only at that card, but three other cards in that set that have that are part of that similar subset, that are entire foil cards, which often lead to difficulties, scratches, surface imperfections, things that make it difficult to gem mint. And the other three cards were Carlos Delgado, Johnny Damon, and Chipper Jones. All those three players were part of that subset that the Derek Jeter is part of. And he did an analysis of the gem rate for those other three players, and combined, the gem rate was 63 cards received a 10 out of a total 4,408 submissions, or about 1.43% gem rate. Then he looked at the Derek Jeter card. Now, there have only been 22 cards graded a PSA 10 out of 24,100 submissions, or a gem rate of 0.0913%. And based on that initial analysis, he thought, whoa, wait a minute, something's going on here. Why does the Derek Jeter card have such a dramatically low gem rate as opposed to those other three players, when the cards themselves have the similar design to them? What's special about the Derek Jeter card versus the other three cards? And when I got to that point in Brian's video, I paused it because I suddenly thought of a potential reasoning of why that would occur. And after I jotted down my notes, I played the rest of Brian's video, and sure enough, his reasoning was the same exact one that I came up with. And so I agree with his possible explanation as to why the numbers are as they are. And we both concluded, and I think it's a reasonable explanation, is that the Derek Jeter card in the 1993 SP set is a lot more popular card than the cards of the other three players. It's Derek Jeter's rookie card. I don't think, maybe it's Johnny Damon's rookie card, but I don't know if it's Carlos Delgado's or Chipper Jones's true rookie card. So there's a much higher demand in the hobby for Derek Jeter's 1993 SP rookie card. So there's going to be more people wanting to submit that card for grading. And because of the known issues with the condition of that card, I think a lot of people are submitting that card, the Derek Jeter card, for grading, even if they know that it doesn't have a chance at gemming out. So the fact that there's about 4 times, or about 6 times, there's about 6 times the number of Derek Jeter cards that have been submitted than the other 3 combined. So I think a lot of collectors are, again, submitting those 1993 SP Derek Jeter cards, even if they think it's going to get a PSA 6 or 7 or 8. Even a 6, 7, or 8 has a decent value to it because it's a very popular Derek Jeter rookie card. And so they're not necessarily looking for their copy to gem mint. As opposed to the other three players, they're probably being more selective in which cards to submit. So they're probably not going to submit a card that they think may only get a PSA 8. They're going to be, again, very selective and think, wow, this is a really sharp card. This really may have a chance at gemming out, or at least maybe getting a 9. So to me, it's not surprising that in this example, in this comparison that Brian did, that the gem rate is higher for the Carlos Delgado, Johnny Damon, and Chipper Jones card, as opposed to the Derek Jeter card. That more people are submitting the Derek Jeter card knowing that it doesn't have a chance at a gem mint. So with that large number of cards submitted and graded, to me, it's not surprising that there's such a low gem mint rate. The other card that is often used as an example of, man, PSA, and I think it's typically for PSA that's getting the heat for this, is hey, there's such a low gem mint rate for the 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson rookie card. And now I didn't run the numbers. I didn't go onto PSA's website and calculate the gem mint rate for the 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson and compare that to some of the other 1980 Topps cards. But I wouldn't be surprised if I looked at 3 other cards within the 1980 Topps set and maybe found a similar disparity between the Henderson and the other 3 players. Because again, it's Ricky Henderson's rookie card. It's the big rookie card in the set, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest leadoff, or probably the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. And a lot of people want to get his rookie card graded, even though they know that it most likely will not grade a PSA 10. They're fine with a 7 or an 8, and maybe even just hoping that it would get a PSA 9, because even PSA 9s are worth a few $1,000s. So in conclusion, I guess, are there incentives or possible incentives for grading companies to withhold the number of 10s that they assign to cards? Yeah, I think with the 5 examples I gave there, you can maybe make an argument that, yeah, it may be to these grading companies' advantage to limit the number of 10s that they assign for particular cards. But my opinion is that probably is not the case, and that some of these examples that are shown of the different gem rates could be a simple result of just more people submitting that card as opposed to other cards just because they want the card graded, not necessarily because they're only submitting cards that they think would get a 10 grade. So that's my thoughts on it. We'd love to know what your thoughts are about Greg's question, my analysis. Do you see any flaws in my analysis? Do you agree with some of my analysis? And again, I encourage you to go watch Greg's video, and especially Brian's video. I know we put a lot of work into that. And of course, if you're not familiar with Brian's channel, again, it's High Pop Professor. Definitely go check his channel out, even just to see his other content, and hopefully maybe you'll subscribe to his channel. So Greg, again, thanks for a great question as always. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.